of hazy sunshine, highest temperatures of 12 to 15 degrees. And now you're up to date on News Talk.
The Newsround on Off the Ball.
With Gillette Labs. Get the ultimate shave or your money back. Neon Night Edition available now.
This is News Talk.
And you're very welcome along to Thursday Nights Off the Ball. It's Richie McCormack here with you right through until 10 p.m. tonight. Lots to come between now and then. Brian O'Driscoll is going to join us live in studio. At 8 p.m. we're going to be talking about Leinster's Heineken Champions Cup quarter-final with Leicester at the Aviva Stadium tomorrow evening. It's a game you can hear live and exclusive on Off the Ball because Cuan O'Flaherty and Fiona Hayes are going to be bringing you live commentary from Lansdowne Road on that one. Brian will help us assess the what is to come for Leinster at the weekend and what next for the rest of the provinces after what was a pretty disappointing week last weekend. On top of that, Frank Lampard is somehow back in charge at Chelsea. I don't know either. We're going to be talking about that with Jonathan Wilson and John Giles on the football show. That's after 9 o'clock tonight. And coming up at 7:30, the championship is upon us, as is Easter. And we will be looking ahead to the Connacht Football Championship openers, namely Mayo's date with Roscommon. And Shane Curran is going to join us to talk about that. So busy one on the way. If you want to get in contact, please do. You can text us on 53106. You can tweet us at Off the Ball. Will O'Callaghan joins us in the studio for the Newsround. Evening, Will.
Evening, Rich.
Marie Donelon joins us in the studio as well. Good evening. I'm still trying to get my head around this Lampard's business. I'm letting you behind the curtain here a little bit. We recorded Jonathan Wilson earlier on, and one of the points I said to him was, this makes all the sense in the world and makes no sense whatsoever.
Yeah, I'm trying to put myself into Todd Bowley's shoes right now. Yeah, I mean, they're expensive. But you've also got a very expensive squad, which is underachieving currently.
Yeah.
Is Frank Lampard the right guy, given the evidence of his last time in charge of Chelsea, when another manager came in and took his squad at the time and brought them to totally different heights and fixed all the defensive problems that were there under Frank Lampard? Why would he now be the right manager after not exactly displaying against Everton that he had grown as a coach to now be the right guy to take over Chelsea? Essentially, Richie, to try and knock the reigning champions Real Madrid out of the Champions League, because the next 9 games in the Premier League don't matter. They really don't. They're not going to get into the top 4. It's all about the Champions League now.
But it's just as soon as you say it, and I found those words coming out of my mouth a lot as well, Marie, it's like they have to play Real Madrid next in the Champions League in the quarterfinals, and it's Frank Lampard who's in charge. And we shouldn't be scoffing at somebody who is one of the best players in Chelsea's history. They're all-time top scorer. Somebody who's won 3 Premier League titles with them and sundry other cups. And yet it's
a player.
And yet it's a punchline that he's their caretaker manager.
Yeah, but there's absolutely no pressure. Nobody expects anything off of him. So if he's not that expensive, we don't know what he's getting for this, but if he's not that dear, Chelsea aren't in a losing position here. Nobody expects them to beat Real Madrid if they don't completely embarrass themselves. It's
just a weird thing of happenstance that the appointment was brewing at the same time that Real Madrid were knocking 7 shades out of Barcelona at the Nou Camp, and then you're looking at it going, one or the other.
And you're thinking, like Luis Enrique had a pretty decent record against Real Madrid when he was the Barcelona head coach. He's got a good record as a manager.
Yeah, but Enrique and Nagelsmann won't want to go in now facing Real Madrid.
Get the storm over.
You need someone to deal with this storm. So they're 11th. So if they got 8th, that's seen as a success.
Miss out on the Conference League. Nobody wants that.
I was just about to say, if you get the Conference League and end up saying 8th place, it works out that that's the Conference League. Maybe that might be Todd Bowley might want them out of that competition. Maybe
so 9th is
you try and navigate to be just outside Europe, but also not falling below Aston Villa.
Well, Villa are going to finish ahead of them.
Like the only winner out of this is Lampard, because he's going to get a nice paycheck out of it.
He is, but like if he does fail, and
which he probably will.
Well, or he wins the Champions League.
Well, yeah, there is that. but if he does, like, what's his next port of call after this? Because he's not going to be Chelsea manager unless he wins the Champions League. And then Chelsea have painted themselves into a rather hilarious corner. But beyond that, like, where
does his reputation suffer if he goes to Chelsea? Yeah. It's middling. They get knocked out, as it would be expected, in the 2 legs against Real Madrid. They have an okay finish to the season. Does that actually enhance Lampard's reputation?
He's not thinking about his reputation. They've come to him with this proposition and he's just taken it.
Somebody said Lampard is just one of life's great winners. Get over it.
Yeah, he's winning here.
Text is from Frank in London.
It's from Frank.
Could be slightly like there are a lot of Chelsea fans happy with this. Like, I was listening to TalkSport this morning, and Simon Jordan was saying it was cringe and it was so embarrassing. And there were a number of Chelsea fans. Now, I know they're going to put the most exuberant on air, but there were a number of them quite happy.
If there are any Chelsea fans out there, I genuinely would love to hear what the barometer is on this, because I'm not a Chelsea fan, so I've no iron in this fire, but I'd love to know what the actual feeling is amongst
I think they
Chelsea
just think their season had gotten so low, it can't really get much worse. They've turned into a bit of a banter club, so...
Let's get Ruud Hullet back in charge.
Well, I was just thinking, I don't deny that he's a winner, because he is.
Yeah.
But that winningness was achieved on the football pitch, as opposed to what we've seen from Frank Lampard as a coach between Derby, the first spell at Chelsea, and Everton.
I like what he did at Derby.
With a huge budget and was expected to go up and then didn't get through the playoffs.
Look what they've done since.
Yeah, but at the time they were very well bankrolled and had good players in on loan and probably should have got promoted.
And he still managed them towards the playoff final, which was nothing. Well,
Sure.
It wasn't nothing, sorry.
Okay, but is that the guy that you want if you're a team who has splurged the best part of £400 million and the expectation level will be that you'd be competing for the Champions League? Like, Chelsea do interim managers really well. They've done it in the past.
Hello,
Who's
Avram
hitting?
Grant.
Yeah, Avram Grant, Hiddink, Rafa, obviously Di
Rafa won the
Matteo.
European trophy with him, didn't
He
he?
won the Europa League, yeah. It's like Chelsea.
Caretaker managers tend to win European trophies at Chelsea.
Culturally, Chelsea can do this.
My God.
I didn't think we'd end up back in this position either, because the Todd Bowley regime was meant to be different. They were meant to have scouted Potter, taken loads of time about that appointment. They were going to back him come hell or high water, and still they ended up pulling the trigger on him, and now they've gone back to Frank Lampard, which this almost feels like a Roman Abramovich move as opposed to a Todd Bowley move.
The Bowley regime seems more bizarre than Abramovich.
Yeah,
there's less thinking behind decisions.
There seems to have been a through line in terms of the squad building with Chelsea under Abramovich, in that there was no massive chopping and changing. There were signings, sure, there were big money signings, but there were always ones and twos on top of what was there. And what was there was a decently functioning side, bar a couple of wobbles that cost managers their jobs on the whims of a very rich owner who could bring in somebody else. Here now with the Bowley situation is a squad that's literally all over the place, and nobody knows what the best starting 11 is, nobody knows what the best formation is for that squad. It's odd.
Yeah, nothing summed this up more than Hakim Ziyech not getting his transfer out in January. A player where they've got a million... Like, when Raheem Sterling came on last night, it was kind of part of me thinking, oh yeah, Sterling's still at Chelsea. They have so many players.
They only signed him in the summer.
I know, but they have so many players that play in the same position. Obviously, you can't get them all on the field at the one time.
I know.
Yet, for all of those attacking midfielders that they bought, they didn't buy a central number 9 when they've been crying out for one for at least the last 2 years.
Well, there is one out there according to Richard Keys, as we found out in the show last night.
Yeah, playing the Big Ev.
Big Ev to Chelsea.
Drums, getting them really moving.
In the summer. And so Jason in Dublin, which is the pertinent question as around the Chelsea situation tonight, says, a penny for John Terry's thoughts. What does he have to do for a shot?
Yeah.
He's not even on the coaching staff for Frank. They brought in Ashley Cole and a couple of others, but John Terry, who's still, I think, employed by the club, is not directly
What's he
involved.
employed by Chelsea to do?
Yeah,
he was at
what's he
Aston
at
Villa
these
before.
days?
What's he doing for Chelsea?
I'm going to have a quick Google of that.
The Google going.
I'm going to have a quick Google machine of that. But John Terry's still at the club. But like, I'm going to put this image out there for you, Jason. And again, want to hear from Chelsea fans tonight on this one to see what they make of Frank Lampard's appointment. Picture it. They get to the final in Istanbul. They win the Champions League under the prodigal son Frank Lampard.
Across that side, the draw, which has Bayern Munich, Man City and Real Madrid, book one.
Yeah, grand. It's doable. They win the Champions League. Who's first out onto the pitch? Full kit. Absolutely loving life. Giving
Shingar's
Frank
in.
the big hug and a kiss. And congratulations, you've just got this job full time. JT. Captain, leader, legend. The news round on Off the Ball is brought to you with thanks to Gillette. And we will be starting with news of the Masters, I do believe.
Just before that, Richie.
Go on.
Gus Hiddink. What's he up to at the moment?
He's probably in charge of a national team.
He's not. He's unemployed. They could have went for him. He left Australia at the tail end of last year.
Isn't he about 70 odd though?
Yeah, but he is the Chelsea interim manager. Surely if you need an interim manager, Hiddink is the way to go.
Get Avram involved.
His age is 76, according to Wikipedia.
Roy's still doing it at 75, so...
Yeah, 2 spells at Curacao in the Caribbean before that, and he was the Australia assistant manager up until last year.
That's the life you want to land yourself in, isn't it? Getting random international team jobs. Just
Maybe
posting around the
Lampard's
world.
doing this for next to nothing.
It's Frank Lampard. I don't think that's really true. Frank don't come cheap. The Newsround, as I say, brought to you in association with Gillette Labs. Get the ultimate shave or your money back. Neon Night edition available now. There is a little golfist competition going on over in Georgia, I do believe, Anne-Marie.
Yeah, day one of the Masters, and Shane Lowry is in a tie for fourth at the moment. He's 3 under par with 2 holes of his opening round left to play. That leaves him 4 shots behind the current leader, Norwegian Victor Hovland. He's 7 under through 14, a 3-stroke advantage over the chasing pack. Seamus Power is also in a tie for fourth on 3 under through 15. And Rory McIlroy, the world number 2 and one of the favourites for the tournament, is just getting his first round underway. Belfast amateur Matthew McLean, who briefly led, finished the day on 5 over.
He'll always have that though, won't he?
I think he led because he teed off first.
You get that screen grab and you have that as your Facebook and Twitter header forevermore. It's just like your name at the top of the Masters.
I was
leaderboard.
1 under par at the Masters at a time.
Yeah, absolutely. McIlroy has parred the first, by the way, and is level par there. So 3 under par for both Shane Lowry and Seamus Power, who got back-to-back holes in one last night. He was having a grand old laugh at the par 3.
It's perhaps a good tactic over the next few days to go for a few more holes in one to bring the score down.
I didn't know. I knew obviously the tradition of the par 3, whereby nobody who's won it has gone on to win the Masters.
Won it, yeah.
I didn't know that anybody who's carded a hole in one in the par 3 has also failed to win the Masters that week. So I don't know if 2 holes in one, like one negates the other, and he's suddenly back in contention because he got back to back, or if he's along the lines of. And I also learned that Tom Hoge's name is pronounced Tom Hoagie. So
Yeah,
it was
I
a
thought
school
Tom
night.
Hoagie.
Yeah, it was a school night last night for me all around. We will be talking Leinster and their Heineken Champions Cup quarter final with Leicester, which is a fun one to say. A little bit later on the show, 8 o'clock, Brian O'Driscoll is going to be joining us in studio. We do know the 2 teams that are going to be lining out, Anne-Marie.
Caelan Doris will start at open side flanker in place of the injured Josh van der Fleer. That's for Leinster's Heineken Champions Cup quarter final, which is against Leicester tomorrow. As expected, Gary Ringrose returns at second centre with Jimmy O'Brien moving to the wing. That's in the place of Jordan Larmour. The rest of the side then remains unchanged from their 15-point win over Ulster last Saturday night. Speaking today, head coach Leo Cullen said they're not underestimating the gravity of this test.
They're still a very proud club, and I suppose they've got the taste for success. I think as I said, they're coming as English Premiership champions now. They've had a bit of transition with their coaching group, so which is different to what it would have been last year, but still roughly this. Like, is the same mindset is the same. Wigglesworth was there as a player coach. Now as the head man. So yeah, it's a great challenge. It's an amazing tournament. You see the quarterfinals. I guess it's a real privilege to be here. Like, isn't it? Like, it's and that's the way we feel probably at the moment. Is it's sort of trying to enjoy the fact that we're here. Trying to prepare as best we possibly can, even though it's a relatively short week. The game comes around so quickly, like it's strange even because it's a Thursday, Friday game. It's a great occasion here, as we talked about here on Saturday night, to have 52,000. The dynamic is different with the way the stadium is going to be laid out this weekend because of Easter weekend and all the rest. So, but it's the guys have been trying to enjoy themselves this week in a short week, but understand the magnitude of the occasion as well.
They're open it.
Yeah, I was just discussing off air why it was a half capacity Aviva Stadium for this Saturday. I'm guessing, as you mentioned, Anne-Marie, the top tiers aren't going to be open for this one.
Yeah,
No, they're
not the same demand as the Ulster game.
I miss the days of Good Friday games where there used to be a fight about the bars not being open because it's Good Friday and whether or not the team would go ahead.
It was generally a piece on the radio, Richie, that you could almost book a year in
It
advance.
was great crack. Who we get on to talk about it? We'll get somebody from the Vintners Association on. We'll get somebody on from the stadium, and we'll get somebody on who doesn't agree with drinking at all.
People
And
with no vested interest whatsoever.
Exactly. And then we'll have them fight it out on air and talk about why we can't drink at the rugby.
And I wonder what will happen this year, Richie. Should it be open for just special events? Is it wrong that it's not open? Rinse and repeat for about a 10-year cycle.
I miss those 10 polls in terms of... Because you used to be... I don't want to get into too much reminiscence about Good Fridays, right? Because you used to have a full programme of top flight football in the UK as well, of a Good Friday. And now you're lucky to get one game.
We were talking about earlier. Remember us, the Liverpool-Everton derby 0-1 was like an evening time kickoff.
It was a treble season for Liverpool. Yeah, it was like a 4:30, 5:30. It was something weird in terms of kickoff time. Wasn't late, wasn't early.
Yeah.
But that was the Gary Mack. Stephen Daunt, our esteemed colleague, was on to me about that one earlier on.
United and Liverpool drew the day
That's another one.
Good Friday agreement was agreed.
Bring back Good Friday football.
1-0.
Why isn't it happening anymore? Who do we write to about this?
Premier League.
I'm on it. I'm certainly on it.
But apparently there's only about 500 English fans coming over. Maybe somewhere between 500 and 1,000. So that's the main reason.
Don't forget the bus loads coming up from Munster as well.
Richard, I believe it's one minibus from James Cronin's club that's coming up, as opposed to maybe the idea that possibly even came out of the studio that there were people coming from across the province, and that in Waterford they were rocking up 50-seater buses.
Herding them in. James Cronin's playing. Let's go to the TV and watch
celebrating.
But we will have.
Let's see 100 Pollard as well if we go along. No, obviously there's going to be a very probably small hardcore group of James Cronin's friends and family, and very much tongue-in-cheek he was getting across the idea that there was going to be a boatload of people coming from Cork to watch the game.
That game is obviously going to be live here on Off the Ball tomorrow evening, so even if you're not heading out, that you can hear live commentary of it from Cuno Flaherty and Fiona Hayes, which is going to be live here on News Talk, exclusively live, I should mention as well. We have heard from the prodigal son at Chelsea today, Anne-Marie.
Frank Lampard says it's his aim to get the squad showing a passion to play for Chelsea between now and the end of the season. He's back in charge for a second spell as manager, this time in a caretaker role following Graham Potter's sacking at the weekend. Lampard insists he'll be trying to keep his message simple. The 44-year-old was previously in the role for 18 months before being sacked in January of 2021. Speaking to the media today, he explained why he has decided to return to Stamford Bridge.
It's a pretty easy decision for me. This is my club in terms of my playing career and having coached here before. So I have a lot of emotions and feelings towards the club. I'm also a very practical person, and when you become a manager, you understand that you don't manage your own club, the club that you say is your club forever. And obviously I've been on a different path since I left Chelsea. But to come back in a time where the club have asked me to come and take the role, of course that's the most important thing, but also with a belief that I can come and help the cause in this period to the end of the season. So I'm delighted to get that opportunity, and I want to be, I'm thankful for that, to the people that decided to give me that opportunity. I'm confident in myself. I have a good understanding of the squad. Of course I've worked with a lot of them before, but also the training ground, the stadium, the fans, what Chelsea fans want, and I'll do my utmost in this period coming to give them what they want with my own hard work.
What have we just learnt off air?
Evan Ferguson is set to meet Frank Lampard down at Stamford Bridge. Chelsea entertain Brighton on Saturday the 15th of April. That's between their two Real Madrid Champions League fixtures. So perhaps an audition for Ferguson.
He came on as a boy against Frank, he returns as a man. That's the narrative.
On this side of the Irish Sea, certainly, that is the main thing of Frank Lampard's tenure at Chelsea, and that his first game in charge, a 14-year-old Evan Ferguson, much to the consternation of about 5 or 6 people on Twitter.
I have a sneaky feeling for anyone who's watching YouTube right now, the picture of Frank Lampard that was used there, I think that was a Daily Mount.
From Daily Mount?
Yeah, I think it was that game.
Listen, it's all meant to be.
No,
also, somebody pointed out as well, his first game in charge is against Wolves. Who was Thomas Tuchel's first game in charge against?
I'm guessing Wolves.
Good guess, Will.
It would have been better if you gone, his first game was against Brighton.
No, it was against Dagenham and Redbridge Forest. Somebody, an anonymous texter, and this Arthur has put in, not fact checked, but I have scanned through this. I think this is true regarding Chelsea. Hi folks, good start. Here's a stat that might give Frank some solace ahead of the Madrid games. In Premier League era, Chelsea have won 5 European trophies, the Champions League twice, the Europa League twice, the Cup Winners' Cup once. 4 of them were won by a manager who wasn't in place at the start of the season. Vialli, Di Matteo, Benitez, Tuchel. And the other by a manager sacked at the end of that season, as in Maurizio Sarri. You could also add in Avram Grant losing a Champions League final on penalties, having been appointed mid-season. It's a strange club.
It really is. You almost forget that Sarri was there for that final in, I'm going to say, where was that final in Baku or somewhere when they played Arsenal?
Yeah.
That's strange, isn't it? I
Yeah.
think that was Hazard. Was that Hazard's last game for the club as well? I think.
Yeah.
Is that 20?
Who knows at this stage? With the 2020s are, it's bizarre. But there is hope in that, and I think generally there is a lot of optimism Gary as well says, the last time we had a caretaker manager in the Champions League knockout stage, we won it. Optimistic Chelsea supporter Gary. Thank you for that, Gary. And Pat Newbert says, I reckon if Chelsea won the Champions League in Istanbul, Bowley would go out for the trophy lift.
Ooh.
He would.
Tradition in the US,
Super Bowl owner and all that kind of thing, and it happens with we've seen John Henry with the Boston Red Sox go out and lift the MLB trophy.
I've always found it a little bit strange that they get to. I know they put the money in, and they're the person at the top of the club, but it always seems strange. Get out of the way, athletes. Give me my trophy.
Well, if I've learned anything from sport, it's that Monty Burns put together that Isotopes team, and they would be nothing without Monty Burns.
There you go.
From one mess to another, Anne-Marie.
Leicester City and one of their caretaker managers, Adam Sadler, has said he doesn't know if the club are any closer to making a permanent appointment. He'll continue in his role alongside Mike Stowell for this weekend's Premier League game with fellow relegation strugglers Bournemouth. Brendan Rodgers was relieved of his duties on Sunday. Former Foxes and Republic of Ireland boss Martin O'Neill has been linked with a return to the King Power Stadium.
Ooh, that would be something.
Go to Nottingham Forest, your old club, doesn't quite work out. Go to Leicester, see what happens. Celtic next in line.
Do a bad job with the Championship mid-table team, get sacked, and then suddenly look into a Premier League relegation dogfight.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I can understand obviously Leicester were very quickly linked with Potter. It's going to be a bit of a scramble here with both Leicester and Spurs looking for a manager. I don't think they'll want to stick with interim coaches till the end of the season. I think with the Spurs situation, that's what's going to happen. I think they're happy enough with Stellini and Ryan Mason to steer the ship. But Leicester's Leicester need to obviously get a few more results. Yeah, they need somebody there. I wonder will David Moyes still be at West Ham as well? It's going to be. Yeah, we've got a game that impacts hugely on Leicester's season as well. This Sunday I'll be on commentary with Brian Kerr for Leeds and Crystal Palace in the Premier League. This story went a little bit under the radar over here, Anne-Marie, but the problem of racism continues in Italian football. Juventus have been handed a partial stadium ban for their next home game in the Italian Cup. That's after racist chants were directed at Inter Milan's Romelu Lukaku. The striker, who's on loan at Inter from Chelsea, coincidentally held his finger to his lips after scoring a late penalty to earn a 1-1 draw on Tuesday. Lukaku was then shown a second yellow card and faces a 1-match suspension. Yeah, it's pretty grim what happened there the other night. But on the brighter side of things, a quite brilliant day for Ireland's cricketers in Mirpur. That's right, the Irish men's team put on an incredible performance at the wicket on day 3 of the one-off test match against Bangladesh today. The hosts wiped out the Irish top order before stumps yesterday, but Ireland lost only 4 wickets all day. Lorcan Tucker had a day to remember with a century on debut. Harry Tector added a second 50 on debut, while Andy McBride followed up his 6-wicket haul with a superb 71. Ireland are 286 for 8 at stumps in Dhaka and hold a lead of 131 runs. Yeah, it's a quite incredible performance, particularly from Lorcan Tucker. Harry Tector is turning into an amazing player. In terms of a good few days from and like if they can put on another few runs and push that up above 150, 160, who knows what they're capable of on the final day. We have news as well. Bad news just keeps coming in from Donegal, it seems, Anne-Marie. Yeah, disappointing this. The Donegal footballers have been dealt a major blow as Ryan McHugh has departed the panel just ahead of the championship. McHugh, who is currently nursing an injury, confirmed to Donegal Daily that he will miss the championship due to work commitments abroad. Donegal take on Down in their Ulster Senior Football Championship quarter-final on Sunday the 23rd of April, so just over 2 weeks' time. Yeah, and we'll be previewing the Connacht Football Championship very, very shortly indeed. Shane Curran is going to join myself and William on the line to look ahead to Roscommon and Mayo in the quarter-finals there. We've had some sad news as well from Derry today, Anne-Marie. The former Derry player, manager and county chairman Jim McKeever has died at the age of 92. He was the inaugural footballer of the year back in 1958. Barry in Ballyshannon has texted in rather quickly. It's going, McHugh gone, what have we done to deserve this? If you didn't have bad luck, they'd have no luck at all. Donegal at this stage. It was only a few weeks ago we were having a chat with Cara Kane about this, and we were looking at who's potentially going to be back in for the Down game, and he was one of those that they felt that McHugh was in a race to be fit, but he would be a big boost because McBrearty's probably going to be missing. Everything that's happening off the field around Donegal currently, you start to think that game in Norrie story is a banana skin now for Donegal, coming in with no form from the league, and Down were very impressive in their last game when they had nothing to play for. So Down were okay without getting promotion, and they will be, I would say, sniffing blood in the water currently for a potential surprise there.
Yeah, I think it was Declan Bogue who was on with myself a couple of weeks ago when we were talking about this. Like the Down will be lining this one up from far out as regards the result that they can pick up, and it'd be a hell of a scalp and would certainly open up that championship deeper into proceedings as well. So an interesting prospect on the way there. Ulster continuing to dole out contracts, Anne-Marie.
That's right. Jake Flannery, Angus Curtis and Luke Marshall will continue to line out for Ulster in the seasons ahead. Tipperary native Jake Flannery agreed a new 3-year deal today, and that'll keep him at Kingspan Stadium until at least 2026. 25-year-old Curtis has put pen to paper on a new 2-year deal with the province, and then Marshall, who has amassed over 150 appearances for his home province, is to remain in Belfast for another year. News as well from the West today as Connacht announced contract extensions for Shane Bolton, Colm Riley and Dominic Robertson McCoy. Utility back Bolton has signed for the 2023-24 season. Scrum half and Ballinasloe native Riley has renewed his contract for 2 years, and then Robertson McCoy, who joined the province in June of 2016, has signed a 1-year deal.
Sensible business. The one thing that keeps jumping out at me, because I've been doing, and Anne-Marie did Rugby Daily for us today, which you can find on the OTB Rugby feed if you're looking at your podcasts. I think they've signed up 12 players this week, Ulster, because it's Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, 3 each. The name of Ian Henderson keeps being absent from these updates, and that's the one that jumps out at me. I know he's been linked with
the newspaper reports continue to link him with Japan and France.
Yeah, and you're kind of thinking that the longer this goes on and the more names that churn out from Ulster during the course of these weeks, and we're heading towards the end of the season and he still hasn't signed a deal, it'd be a huge loss, especially when you look at, it's not necessarily leadership, but certainly depth and all that kind of stuff.
He's so much road left in his Ireland career, though, Richie. I really can't see him leave. I think his story goes well beyond the World Cup in being, an important player for Ireland, so therefore he's not going to want to go abroad. But as you said, the longer it goes, the more the speculation is going to continue about the offers from abroad. Connacht, to their credit, I don't know if you've probably been following these for Rugby Daily. The videos they're doing are absolutely incredible for each one. And I think as well for Riley now, because obviously Marmion is going to leave.
Yes,
that potentially opens up a space for him to challenge Quaylen Blade to be the number one scrum half of the province next season. So that's one to keep an eye on.
Yeah, certainly. One of these things that doesn't get commented on, but I think Connacht in their social media and in there's somebody who's gotten in charge there in terms of digital stuff that's taken a couple of steps up in the last while. So it all adds to.
Usually I bemoan because back in the old days, right, you used to get you get an email or a fax or whatever back in the old days.
Fax. You never got a fax in your life, William.
Not that old.
Fax is still coming.
When did you get a fax?
I'd say the last fax I probably had was racing results about 3 years ago. There's some of the racetracks still send a fax out to the local radio stations.
You get a fax, Midland still has a working fax?
Fax machine upstairs, yeah. It's really died off in recent
Have you ever sent a fax?
No. I always would, at the worst of the worst, if a fax had to be sent for something, I'd ask someone who knew what they were doing. But I'm familiar with how to print the things off the fax machine. That's about as much as I know.
We used to have one of them in Ireland.
Rang me at De Gea and Real Madrid.
Oh yeah, the fax machine.
But there was a quirk around that where it had to be.
They count as a legal document. Emails are now accepted at this stage, but they weren't, I think, back then.
You needed a printout rather than a digital.
But back in the old days, Richie, you used to get an email or whatever, a website declaration of the 21 players who've re-signed for the next season.
You had to work out.
Now it's stripped out by 2 to 3 players a day.
Oh yeah.
Or one every 3 hours as it was with Leinster a few weeks ago.
Have you ever sent a fax? 53106 is the number to text if you've been in contact.
For your more mature listeners.
Absolutely, yeah. But thank you for that, Anne-Marie. We will have more from Anne-Marie throughout the course of the evening as well if you're listening out on our bulletins on News Talk and indeed across the Go Loud network stations. William as well, you're going to be sticking around to talk some Gaelic football with us as well, and perhaps to add to JP Hoolan's question on the YouTubes.com saying thoughts on AEW running Wembley Stadium, lads.
They'll do well.
I have to hold you there.
Come on, Richie.
Cash machine time.
News Talk's Weekend of Winning.
And this is your opportunity to win a fantastic family trip to beautiful Lanzarote this summer, courtesy of Sunway.ie. You can win flights and 7 nights, all inclusive at the 4-star Costa Calero Hotel for 2 adults and 3 children. To enter, just answer this question: what group of islands does Lanzarote